So for the rest for today's focus on science writing, I want to focus on a well-structured paragraphs, right? A real important part of effective writing is a well-structured paragraph. And there are basically three, possibly four main elements in a well-constructed paragraph. The first one is a topic sentence, and I'll show you an example. A topic sentence in a minute. A topic sentence is basically a sentence, usually the first sentence of a paragraph, that gives your reader an overview of what this paragraph will be about. Second, a focus on a single point of discussion. And this has a little bit to do with length. I often find when I work with writers on their manuscripts, and I'm reading, and the paragraph goes into page 2 and 3 and sometimes even 4. I'm like, whoa, what is going on? Give me a break. It goes on for too long. A paragraph, let's say in a double-spaced Word document, should not be longer than half, maybe 3/4 of a page. If it goes over one page in a double-spaced Word document, you are probably already writing about another topic or another aspect of the topic that deserves its own paragraph. And it's not to be formulaic about this, but it really is has to do with keeping your reader's attention focus in mind. I don't know about you, but when I read texts where they go on and it goes on and on, I kind of lose my focus. Topic sentences are really designed to kind of help your reader get back to what's the main point here. What else am I trying to say? Help you narrow down the topic or move to a different aspect of the topic. Because the topic sentence is almost like a mini thesis statement for your paragraph. And then thirdly, you want to make sure that your paragraph has coherent writing that's easy for readers to understand. And there's a couple of ways, a couple of elements that go, a couple of aspects that go into that. One is your sentences shouldn't be too long, just like your paragraphs. And I'm guilty as charged. I tend to write very long sentences when I draft first time. So make sure your sentences are well formed and well structured, but not too long. I think often in research writing or scientific writing, we tend to think that longer sentences means we sound smarter, but it can just add to the confusion for your reader. So short to the point sentences are actually really helpful throughout your writing. So well-formed sentences are really important. Transitions between sentences are also really important. And then how you structure your sentences within the paragraph to emphasize certain points by what we call parallel structure, meaning you structure a sentence the same as the next, can be very effective. And I'm going to show you an example in just a moment. And the last point that is often included in these summaries of elements of a well-constructed paragraph is you want your paragraph to complete the point. Now, I put this in parentheses because I actually think this is optional. I have a lot of colleagues of mine who teach Writing 101 to college undergraduates, and they emphasize this very strongly, but I think for research writers, that's not always necessary. Okay, so keep that in mind. This one here, I would say, is optional more than necessarily required. And so let me talk a little bit about, just emphasize again about paragraph length. So make sure that on a Word document, I'm going to write this down here, on a Word document, about 2 paragraphs, I'm going to use a paragraph sign here, per page, give or take. Does it mean that your paragraph can be 3/4 of a page? Sure. But then your next paragraph shouldn't be another page and a half. It maybe should be half a page, maybe another 3/4. But you want to make sure you give your reader a break, at least one break per page, in terms of paragraphs. So, and you have to really adjust your narrative for that. And more often than not, when it doesn't happen, as I said previously, writers tend to go on and on about about so many different things that it's hard to kind of distinguish different elements of the argument. So let me show you an example. Oh, before I head to the next page, this comes from the summary I've taken, just reword a little bit from the Bioscience Writers website. Bioscience Writers is a for-profit organization in the United States that works with science writers, helps with editing and formatting and so on. They have a really nice website and have a lot of free materials. So when you get access to the PowerPoint, make sure you check out this website. So here is the sample paragraph from an article that was published in 2015 in Nature, very prestigious U.S. science journal. And it's a very dense paragraph in terms of the content. So lots of, acronyms and numbers in there. So it's very specific. So the average person would not understand this. And me being the average person in this case, really, I'm not really quite sure what this article is too much about, but I can follow the structure. So I've highlighted the first sentence, the topic sentence, here in bold. Most of the HIV targets are common in different cell types. However, subtle differences exist. So as a reader, I'm really being prepared by the writers to expect the rest of the paragraph to be about the subtle differences in these of these HIV targets in different cell types. Okay, so this will all be about subtle differences. So a lot of different examples I would expect as the reader to be part of the rest of this paragraph. And the writers follow it up with a really great expression that I love, and it's very simple. For example, right? They're now following up with an example based on the general statement they just made in the topic sentence. Really beautiful structure. And before I move on to the rest of the paragraph, I do really like this structure of the topic sentence. The first part makes a statement, and the second part qualifies it, saying, however, there are subtle differences. Subtle differences exist. It's a very common and very useful structure to keep in mind particularly as you're introducing maybe ideas or concepts that go against what most people have thought about a topic for a certain time. So let's continue looking here at the second sentence. For example, HIV-1 almost never targets, and it goes up until here. So it tells me something about HIV-1 and the TAP2 gene. So there are some of these differences, right, that are being explained to us. And then the next sentence, I really like a lot this expression too, strikingly. So it's an emphasis that, what you don't want to do is use strikingly in every other sentence, right? You don't want to be too repetitive with these expressions, but when it's appropriate, it's a really beautiful expression to emphasize something. So strikingly, we observed that IKZF3 localized in zones, blah, 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 while it was almost absent in here. So this sentence is really well structured, has a good sort of phrase to create a good transition between this sentence and the next one. It has active voice here. We're going to talk about active and passive voice some other time during this training as well. We observed that this and this happens while it was almost absent from here. And then if you look at the next sentence, it's structured in a parallel way, meaning it's structured just like the previous sentence. It has a similar expression. This time they use conversely. The TAP2 locus was absent from zone 1, while, same thing as here, it was distributed between zones 1 and so on and so on. This is really helpful, particularly in a paragraph that is so complex in terms of the information that is given here. So, to summarize, strong topic sentence, great transitions, right? Great transitions here between sentences. Every sentence has a transition at the beginning. Parallel structure. And the sentence is actually not too long either. So it gives us a really good, and it follows through with what it promises, namely showing those subtle differences for HIV targets that are common in different cell types. So I just want to show you two more quick examples for revision that I've done with a student. This is a passage from a student paper. Was writing about needle exchange program in Vancouver, Canada. A general paper was about needle exchange programs, and this was the initial paragraph. And if you take a look at it, there's a citation, so that's good. But it's very much just summary, right? The study of the needle program illustrates this. The author suggests that, which is great. You need that information. But part of me is like, well, what's the point of this paragraph? What's this paragraph trying to tell me? So the revision looks something like this, and it has actually a really strong topic sentence. And if you notice, it follows that same pattern as the one that I showed you in the paragraph from Nature. So data on needle exchange programs suggests so and so. However, these programs lead to even greater success and so on. The student also listened to me, I guess, and used, for example, a needle exchange program. So here comes the one source that we've seen in the previous slide that was just summarized. There's also another source that is added here, which makes the paragraph a little bit more substantial, because if it would end here, it would be a little bit missing. I think it's helpful to have more than one source support your point, right? And it's actually necessary, particularly in published research writing. When it's a student paper, it's a little different. The standards maybe aren't as high. But again, so just to recap, has a strong topic sentence that gives sort of an analytical framework for the paragraph. It has good transitions, the author suggests, so it includes more information on the draftees on this source here. And then a more recent study provides another transition, comparing like a study that was done more recently than the previous one, reports impressive success rates, and so on. So this is a really nice way to restructure a previous text that was only 2 sentences in the summary with a more analytical focus, but following those ideas and those suggestions on how to structure a paragraph successfully. So in class, what I want you to do right now, I've given you a sample paragraph from a research protocol in antiretroviral therapy, or ART, for patients with HIV/AIDS. It was a really well-written research protocol that I reviewed for a colleague of mine. And this paragraph was actually fairly well structured. It stays on topic in a sense, but there were some ways I felt that it could be rewritten or restructured a little bit or rephrased to make a clearer point. The topic sentence wasn't too bad actually in this one, but the transition certainly I felt lacked some coherence. Let me put it this way, it was hard for me as the reader to really follow the overall point. So what I want you to do is take a moment, read over the paragraph, and try to revise it as best as you can. And what I will do once you're done, you will see another short video of mine where I'm going to go over one of my possible revisions, or the way actually I suggested to revise this paragraph to my colleague. And you can see, you probably come up with some better ideas as well. It happens to me every time when I work on another text again. I always see another way to revise it even more clearly. But just to give you an idea of what I did with the writer at the time, and I'm going to tell you a little bit why I did those, and you can compare and contrast it to what you guys came up with.